So I titled this live one time because it appears that the ones are following me. Uh, they've been behind me for some time, and now I'm making a right hand turn, and so are they. We'll see how this pans out. You know, um, now they're on the side of me. This will be interesting. And they refuse to pass me. Now they're behind me again. Oh man. Now I wonder what makes them interested in me. If that's the case, I have you know, a regular truck. I'm a black guy. I don't know. Find it very interesting. Seems like they're following me, and I have no idea why they would be. So we'll see how this goes. I am almost home, and it's just a matter of time before I find out if that's where they're headed. Oh, that's funny. It appears they're no longer behind me, but I don't know, man. It's like a little bit after I started this live, they decided to stop. I don't know. Who knows, man? I don't think they'd be able to know that I'm going live on my phone, but you never know what kind of technology they got going on in their little vehicles. Anyway, I wanted to talk about, might as well, since I'm on here, I wanted to talk about what geniuses the Russians are. All right. So now we know that China and Russia are like bosom buddies, right? They're allies, real strong allies. Uh, China picks up their communist behaviors from the Russian model. All right, they've been allies for a long time. It never seems like they have any type of beef with each other, you know. And they have the two other superpowers in this world. Are they a part of the new world order that's coming about? No clue. But I think they're carving out a little piece of heaven for themselves, you know. But this is why the Russians are smart. All right, the Russians are smart. They're playing chess. Now, in China, in Africa, you have China buying up large swaths of land. They're installing military bases, right, all over the place. Uh, they're shaking hands with African leaders, and doing God knows what. They're even in Jamaica building and buying and building, and paying the workers jack shit. All right. So yeah, China's in Africa buying up all kind of land, putting up police uh, stations. Yeah, police stations in Africa, Chinese. All right, and they're even in some African countries, you're required to learn Mandarin or Cantonese. You know, Chinese languages. All right, and we already know China owns a crap load of land in the United States. Not, oh, yeah, well, they're buying up land in the United States too, or they're getting ready to buy land. We owe China a lot of money, trillions. All right, most of our debt is because of money we borrowed from them or whatever. So they're doing the same thing we do to third world countries, right? We loan money to these third world countries so they can trade and all that stuff, so they can have a little bit of financial power, right? Help them out a little bit. Or so it seems. But they have to pay back these debts, and they can do that with resources. You know, there are natural resources in those lands that we're loaning money to. All right, and so we will collect. The United States will collect on those debts, and that means getting the resources out of that land and keeping it for themselves. All right. Now we have resources in the United States, and 90% of the United States is rural area. All right, and most of that we don't live in. We don't live there. Not all of it is fertile, but most of it is. You know, because the United States has some of the richest soil. Just in California, we provide about 80% of the produce to the entire country. You know, other states pick up the slack a little bit, but generally we a lot of produce comes out of California. We have some of the richest soil, and not just in California, but all across the country. All right. So China wants to buy land in these areas. All right. They want to buy land in these areas. Um, the powers that be want the areas, most of those areas to themselves. So they might be striking up a deal with the Chinese or whatever. But China is going to collect. But the biggest resource that we have in the United States is the people, and that's why you have serial numbers on your Social Security card. All right, it's not just because you lose your Social Security card, whatever. That's not. Listen, man. Why do you have serial numbers on the Social Security card like you do with money? Anyway, Russia's smart because who are the Chinese going to compete with for all that land in Africa? Many European countries and the United States. All right. Meanwhile, Russia is sticking to its immediate area, you know, or the areas around its immediate perimeter for the most part. They're sticking to that for now. Well, at some point, there's going to be some conflict between China and some of these other countries that want Africa to themselves. So there's going to be a lot of warring in Africa over its land. And there's already a lot of proxy wars going on. You got the Boko Haram, you got these other terrorist groups being funded by European countries in the United States, you know, and Russia. Russia's also providing a lot of resources to some of these rebels and terrorists, right? So you have that, and you have China coming in, installing military bases. You got the United States coming in, trying to install military bases. All right, China and the United States don't mix. Now, why does that make Russia smart? Well, because really the only conflict we're having with Russia is over Syria, right? And a little bit of Iran. But Syria, for the most part, proxy war going on between the United States and Russia, using the rebels and the government, you know, all the bombings and the bombings of, you know, uh, headquarters and stuff like that. You know, other than that, Russia's kind of sticking to, remember it invaded Georgia, right? Which was part of um, the USSR back in the day. Then it broke off, like many other countries did in the USSR. Russia's getting those countries back, piece by piece. But you don't hear about it. Real sneaky. But it used to be part of the USSR, so that's probably why it's not really a big deal. Big surprise. Russia wants its countries back. But why aren't we talking about it? Why isn't it in the media? Like China buying up land in Africa, because our immediate concern is the resources in Africa. We don't give a fuck about Kazakhstan and all the stands and the Czechs and the Weks and the Beks and all that shit over by Russia and Eastern Europe. We don't care about that. No, we want we want Africa. All right. So what happens once it comes to a head? China, United States, and other European countries go at it, right? Real hard. Bam. Knocking shit out the box. Conflict, fighting, war. Big war. All right? What is Russia going to do? They're going to take more of their countries back in those Eastern European states. Most of those Eastern European countries are going to go back to Russia, because Russia's going to roll in, bogart everybody. And why stop there? Why not go into other parts of Europe? Matter of fact, you get a set of binoculars, right? Go to bumfuck Alaska. You can see Russia across the way with some binoculars. That's where the Bering Strait used to be. You used to be able to walk across that motherfucker. That's what the animals did back in those days. What happened there? What if Russia decides to take their ass across the Bering Strait into Alaska and start moving their way down, while we're fighting China in Africa? We're fighting war in Iran. We're fighting Venezuela, right? We got caravans coming from Mexico that are such a huge concern, right? China is going to try to spread their influence across the southern hemisphere and some of the United States, because they own us. So, but when the war starts, it's going to be a lot of problems back here. The war is going to be here too. A lot of Chinese here. Okay, they're not part of 2030. They ain't feeling it. They're the last buffer between the New World Order and Dominion. In their Dominion. Yep. China and Russia. Russia's smart. Russia ain't gonna be fighting nobody. It's gonna be Red Dawn and his bitch. Okay? I'm just saying. It's a theory. You know, it's strategy. I think strategy sometimes. I look at things from different angles. You know, Putin's a great strategist. Chinese government, Chinese military leaders are great strategists. But Russia's willing to throw China out there to take the brunt of whatever the United States has to throw at them. Nice little buffer, nice little cushion between Russia and the United States is China and North Korea, perhaps, as well. Then you got Iran over here, Syria. Just Those are the things I think about. I'm thinking about that. You know, just a little thought as the police are following me around the city and deciding to peel off at the last minute. Maybe not following me, but never hurts to think about it. Anyway, so yeah, 3 lives today so far, and I'm gonna call it a day on that one. All right, peace.